Okay, Ruvain.
Good morning, Rabbi Green.
Good morning. I figured you'd be on Zoom this morning. You're going to have to teach your buddy there, your Chavrusa, how to get on Zoom when he can't make it. He wasn't feeling so well this morning, so
but he says, but Ruvain, he says, but come anyway. This later on for the.
He says, come later to learn with me.
Okay.
That's Mel's message for you.
Okay.
You got to teach him how. Tell him to get into the 20th, at least the 20th century.
For what?
That he should know how to be able to get onto Zoom, Skype, all this kind of stuff. All right. It's like telling me he doesn't know how to get email, right? Okay. All right.
The Asifa.
What?
The Asifa, a few years ago.
Okay. Harvey was here this morning. I'm sure he'll be joining you, Erwin, with our now. All right. I'm going to start the learning sponsors and names. Okay. Year of learning, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova, but Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Nina Monetti, Asna Bad Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigder, Zechen Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha Bas Rivka. Isaac and Evelyn Blachor, in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Isser. A month of learning by Melon Haran Haller, in memory of his brother Yaakov ben Avraham. By Jill and Perry Meltzer, in memory of Jill's mother Bela Bas Avraham and Perry's father David ben Fishel Halevi. Mark Linder, in memory of his mother Yona Bat Zalman Lay. Rabbi Isaac Schmerler, in memory of his wife Mena Sima Bat Yitzchak. Friends of Marilyn Schmerler, in her memory Mena Sima Bat Yitzchak. A week of learning by Judy Iger, in memory of her father-in-law Shlomo Michal ben Aharon. By Sid Paris, in memory of his wife Saratova Bat Yisrael Dov. Jack Gilman, in memory of his mother Elka Bat Yeshayahu. Today is the the 26th, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
26th. So we have a day of learning plus Torah fund by Phyllis and Gedalia Reese, in memory of her mother Shulamit Bat Shneur Isaac HaKohen. Sent that all the way from. Also by Shelley Orgel and Hilda Mirwis, in memory of their mother Devorah Shendel Bat Yosef. And we also wish her a refuah shlema for Peretz Tzemach ben Yaakov Yitzchak. Right. And Shema's having a week. Rafia Velti Yeshua Shema Tzliya. Mechol B'nai Israel a good gebenchtja.
Amen. Amen.
Okay. All right. So where do we want to begin? Okay. Well, the daf for today is what?
Cough.
Is what?
Today is Kaf.
Today is Chaf. Are we sure? We're not behind?
No, we're actually a little ahead. We're on the Kaf.
Oh, right. Okay. So we're on Chaf. Okay. That's today's daf. So I'm going to just start real quick at the bottom of 19b, whatever it is in our school. Be fine.
Be fine.
Be quick, right? Okay. All right. We were ending with that this point here. Amar Rav Sheikh. Rav Sheshet said as follows, Zot omeret hakchasha tchilat hazamahi. Okay, that the fact that there's a contradiction, okay, having asked the question, you had two witnesses, one said one thing, one said the other. Does that imply contradiction? And is that really the implication that these could be the inappropriate hazama, edim zomim, right? That their testimony is invalid. Okay. And then we went over a little bit to the top of Kaf Amud Aleph, today's daf. Ukashem she'ein mezimin et edim ela b'fneihem. The same way you can't say that you can't, I'm going to say the word challenge them as edim zomimim, okay? Unless you do so in their presence, okay? Kach ein makrishin et ha'edim ela b'fneihem. So likewise, you cannot contradict them only in their presence. And that's where we left off yesterday. So we're on Kaf. Right? It's the third line down on the Amud. Okay. So having said this, based on the statement of Rav Sheshet, we see the following discussion. Okay. Amar le Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman now says as follows: Ilu havu kaman, they were before us, umakrishin laho, and they were contradicting one another. Hava asfata, that would be a contradiction. Below hava mashkichin baho, but we wouldn't pay any attention to them, right? Dahavi la edut mukresha, because that would just be, I'm going to put just in quotes, so to speak, just be contradictory testimony. Hashta delit nehu, now that we're good teaching them, the ilu havu the kaman, that they were before us. In other words, both witnesses are there with the Beit Din. Dilma havu modulu. Maybe they would acknowledge, right, the following. In other words, by one saying one saying another, maybe they would basically, I understood it, come to a compromise, what the actual testimony was, mehimne, and then they might be believed. In other words, elsewhere we see the Gemara raise the question. One says, oh, the incident took place, let's say, at 2 o'clock. And somebody says, oh, it took place at 3 o'clock. Okay? So the question is there, are they really contradictory? Or are they just looked at when one looked at the sun and one looked at the sun from another angle? They just thought it was further up or further back or whatever like that.
And two sets of witnesses came. One came at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. The guy at 2 o'clock said one way, the guy at 3 o'clock said, no, 2 o'clock is wrong. How do you solve the problem?
Right. So in other words, in that kind of situation, even though their verbal testimony is not the same, nevertheless,
Going to pull the first sentence is right.
no, the Beis Din is going to say one could have looked at the sun in one location, one in another, and to them that's it. But basically, if they saw the same situation and the other essence statements of the priest and the Fakira seem to be together, okay, they would be accepted.
Problem is here because I've seen this happen.
Yeah.
And I also read it.
Can you hear Sid?
Yes.
Okay, Ruben, go ahead.
There was a case. They were both good. What was the color of suit? Color suit? White. The only way they resolved the problem is when they saw the pictures, when they flew through the camera, then which one was right.
Okay. Happens.
A little different than time.
Right. No, but it could be, I understand that you could have.
Think you see
Right.
isn't what it is.
Right.
Very big problem.
Ela Amar Rav Nachman, but Rav Nachman says here, okay, Trey Lahade Trey. So then what about if you have the two who challenge? So that gives you two witnesses against two witnesses. Okay. Okay, mamona becheskat mare. And if the two witnesses two sets of witnesses contradict each other, then we establish that the money remains in the hand of the one who holds it.
Correct, because you can't use either one as a
Right.
witness.
Right. So says the Gemara going on, Mide dahava anichse devar. Okay. Since, what are we saying there? Okay. What happened? Okay. Right. Okay.
Barshatya is the name of a
Oh,
person.
right. So it was saying, so what is Rav Nachman, right? Having presented this, he says, Mide dahava anichse devar shatia. That's
Shatia.
similar, right? It's similar to the situation that occurred with the possessions of a man named Bar Shatia. Okay, namely the Bar Shatia, Zavin Mixer. Okay, Bar Shatia acquired some.
He sold.
I
Mochar.
got it mixed up.
Mochar.
He sold. He sold some property or some items.
Right.
And then what happened? Atu Beitre, Amrei Kashuhu Shote Zavin. And they said he sold it when he was insane. Va'atu Beitre.
Barshatya sometimes was
Right, we're
sane
going to
and
get
some.
to that. We'll get
I
to
mean-
it. Va'atu Beitre. And then along came two other witnesses. Va'amrei Kashuhu Chalim Zavin. Okay, and others say no, when he was sane, that's when he sold it. Because Bar Shatya, at some times he was insane, at other times he was sane. Okay, so there's a situation, you could have two witnesses both testifying the same thing, that he sold property, but his state was different, right? Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says here, okay, Trey Lahade Trey. Therefore, we establish these two in comparison to these two. Okay, Mamona Becheskat Bar Shatai. And then we would reestablish the money as being the possessions. In that split decision, we have this chazaka that the money remains in the hands of the one who originally held it. Okay, so the money would belong to Bar Shatai.
The property, not the money. The property.
The property. Okay, velo amran ela de it le chazaka de avhate. But now we say this only applies, okay, if we have here the chazaka, okay, the presumption halachically that this is the property that he had from his father, right? Aval lidle chazaka de avhate, amrin. But if he doesn't have this chazaka, okay, of this property, of this karka, okay, what do we say then? Kashehu shoteh zavan, kashehu shoteh zavin. We can say that when he was insane, right, he
Bought it. He
bought
bought it.
and when he was insane,
Saying he
sold it.
sold it.
Right.
All right.
Okay. Amar Rabbi Abahu. So Rabbi Abahu then says, Ein mezimin et ha'edim ela bifnehem. Rabbi Abahu repeats what we saw before, that we do not challenge them as edim zomamim, but only in their presence. Umakhishin et ha'edim shelo bifnehem. But we can have a contradiction against these witnesses when it's not in their presence. Okay? V'hazama shelo bifnehem. So the Gemara says, what about this hazama? Can that be, is that possible that it's going to be without their presence? The hazama lo have hachaya miha havya. Okay, so then determine that the hazama cannot be done without their being present, Okay, but contradiction, nevertheless, that can occur, okay, without their being present. Okay. All right, the Gemara goes on now, okay, and tells us the following. Amarmar, im yeshedu shekatav yadam uzeh. There's a situation where the witnesses come and they're giving testimony that it is their signatures, right? O shayak katav yadam yotzei mimakom acher. Or maybe it's possible that we're going to say that the reliability of their signatures is based on another source. Okay, what's that? Mishtar shekara alav ar'er, where there was a document where there had been a challenge, v'huchzak b'veitin, but it was maintained by the court. Okay, we say they are not to be believed. What happens, says the Gemara? Kara alav ar'er, and lo kara alav ar'er, lo. Okay, that if there was no challenge there, yes, that would imply that they could be believed. Okay, but if there was no challenge, no, they wouldn't be believed. Messiah Leila Rabbi Asi. This seems to support the view of Rabbi Asi, the Amar Rabbi Asi, who says as Ein mekaymin et hashtar, ela mishtar shekara alav ar'er, zak b'veitin. Rabbi Asi is saying we do not certify and maintain that document unless with that document there was some sort of a challenge, and then it was supported, clarified by the court. Amrei Nahadai, and the judges in Nahadai say as follows: Ein mekaymin et hashtar, ela mishtei. We do not maintain another document unless it's done based on either two ubas or mishtei sadot. Sadot here we mean sale, two pieces of land. V'hu she'achlam ba'alehen shloshash. And in regarding land, it was that somebody consumed and used that land with a chazaka of 3 years. Ubishufi, okay? And in that particular case, and then it's kept it peacefully. Rav Simi Bar Ashi, okay? And what did he say? Uviyotse mitachad yad acher. And if the document, if one of the comes from the hand of one of the other litigants, what happens? Aval miyad atzmo. Okay, that we said that applied if it came from another source. But what if it came from one of the litigants? The holder was the holder of the document. Lo, we wouldn't accept it. Ma'ishna tachad yad atzmo. What is so unique about the fact that it comes from one of the hands of the litigants that we don't accept? Dilma ziyufi mezayeh. Perhaps it's counterfeit. That's what we're saying. Mitachad yedei acher nami. But maybe we might say that even if it came from another source, that also could be counterfeit. Dilma azah v'chaza ata v'zayeh. Maybe perhaps he went and he saw the signatures on that other document, right? And then he came and he counterfeited those signatures. So the Gemara says, Kuli hai lo matzim. In that situation, okay, we were going to say that it's not possible for anyone to see those documents, those signatures in such a brief period of, and then accurately produce them from memory. Okay, so that a new item from Gemara. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita. Kotev Adam Eduto al Shtar. Somebody writes his testimony on a document. umeid aleha, okay, afilu la'achar kama shanim. And then he uses that written, let's call it that written, I don't know, summary or testimony, okay, years later as the basis for his testimony in the base. Okay? Amar Rav Huna says, Vahu me'at. But basically, according to Rav Huna, he really must remember it on his own. It's only a reminder, or it
Reminder,
only,
but he must remember on his own the
right, he must
testimony.
remember on his own. It's sort of notes. Maybe he wrote notes about what happened, but then
Right.
it helped him remember the entire incident. Okay? Rabbi Yochanan Amar, says Rabbi Yochanan, Afal pi she'ein zochrav ma'atzmo, even if he doesn't remember it on his own. So what happened? Amar Ravas Mamina. Based on this, we could learn the Rabbi Yochanan, on the view of Rabbi Yochanan, Hani Beitre, the Yadei Sahaduta. We have a pair of witnesses, okay, that knew testimony. And what happened? Uman Sheikhad Minayhu, and one of them forgets. Madker Chad Lechavre, then the other would remind his colleague, speak. Ibayalahu. Therefore, they ask the following shaila: Atzmo, when we're talking about the litigant, what if it's Mai? If he was the one who reminded the witness about the whole issue. Okay? Rav Kaviva Amar, he says, Afilu Atzmo, even when it's the litigant who reminds the witness. Okay? Mar Berei de Rav Ashi Amar. He says, as Atzmo, lo. When it's the one of the litigants, no, that's not acceptable. Okay? Vehilchata, and the law is Atzmo lo. That when it's a litigant, no, it's not an acceptable means of reminding.
Remembering, right.
Okay? All right. However, the Gemara now, as we go to the next Amud, is going to tell us the Surba Marabanan, Afilu Atzmo. But if the litigant was actually one of a Torah sage, then in that case,
No, if the witness was the Torah sage, not the litigant. If the witness is the Torah sage,
no. If it's the litigant is the Torah sage, huh? If the litigant is the Torah sage,
no,
afilu atzmo, then even if he is the litigant, it's acceptable for him to remind the witness.
no. Even afidu atzmo, if he's a Torah sage, that witness.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree.
Very good. I'm not going to argue with that.
Okay? Hiha the Rav Ashi. Like in the case of Rav Ashi, Haviyadeh le sahaduta, the Rav Kahana. Okay? So now we can say, all right, who is the Atzmo here? Maybe now in this case, we're saying that the Talmud sage was the witness. Because what are they doing? They're comparing it to this other situation. Okay?
Right.
Right? Because Atzmo before was always referring to the litigant.
Okay.
So
I'm not
now they're
arguing with
giving
that.
it- Okay, so now they're saying, but what about this situation where Rav Ashi, okay, was the person who knew the testimony in
Right.
regards to the case of Rav Kahana? Amarle, and they said to him, Mi dachir mar hai sa'aduta. Does the master remember the testimony? Amarle lo. And he said to him, no. V'lav haki v'haki hava. So it was then Rav Kahana, who was one of the litigants, who
No,
was
Rav
told-
Kahana was the Baldin. Rav Kahana was the Baldin.
Okay, all right. So Rav Kahana, maybe, okay, we're saying, wasn't it such and such? Amarle lo yadana. And he
Listen,
said-
read the Gemara. Da Rav Ashi have Yodea le besadusa le Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana was the Baldin. Rav
Okay.
Ashi knew Adis about him. That's what the word
Okay,
says. Can't
so-
argue with the words.
Okay,
Can-
so then what happens is Rav Ashi is saying lo yadana, I don't remember. Okay.
Right.
So it here Rav Ashi. So ultimately, Rav Ashi forced himself to remember, okay, as he lay, and he gave the testimony, all right? Chazil Rav Kahana, the Havu Machsam, okay, and he saw that Rav Kahana, okay, which I can accept here was the base part of the basement, the Havu Machsam, that he was basically hesitant, stunned. Amarle, he said to him, Mi savat alak ki sami. Okay, is it possible that I can rely on you? Okay, for that test. So he says, Ana hu deramai anafshai. He says, I made an effort. Okay, on myself, ba'ad kare, and I was able to remember. That's the point. Okay, so, right, so in that, all right, theoretically, we would say that it was the wasted that reminded him.
It
Okay?
was the Baldin. But he remembered it himself, and that's why he gave the testimony.
Right, so when you say Baldin, you're saying he's a member of the Beis Din?
No, he's the litigant.
He's the litigant, so that's why I said at the beginning, the question is, can the litigant actually
Right, and
remind
this is the case.
Right.
And he said to him, I remembered it by myself. I didn't remind the fact that you said,
wasn't
do you remember
reminded
this?
by the
I thought about it myself and I remembered this.
right, but that's part of the issue.
That's part of the issue.
Believe him because he was the Talmud Chacham.
That's right. That
Otherwise,
was
they
the
would not have
case.
believed him.
All right. So that was why the question, what if the litigant was the Talmud Chacham that reminded him? Or what about if the witness was the Talmud Chacham? Okay, let's go on. Tnan hat. Okay, it was taught in another, the following. Atluliot hakrovot la'ir ubein laderech. We have earth, okay, right, that are there, okay, near town, the road. Okay. Echad, the echad yeshano. Some are old and some are new. Okay. Tmeot. Okay. Tmeot. All right.
The halacha
Those
is
that are
there.
new and those that are old, according to the Mishnah, they are both tameh.
Tameh.
Harechokot. Those mounds that are distant, okay, chadashot tahorot, the newer mounds are tahor, yeshanot, the older mounds are tameh. So the Gemara asks, Ezohi krova, so what do we mean when we say the close by? Chamishim amma, they are within 50 amma of the location. The Ezohi yeshana, what do we mean when we say that they're old mounds of earth? Shishim shana, that they are 60 years. Divrei Rabbi Meir, that's the view of Rabbi Meir in this Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, krova she'en krova hemena. When we say it's close, that there's nothing closer to it. Yeshana, that it's old, she'ein adam zochra, that a person is not able to remember about it. Okay? So the Gemara continues with a question. Mai ir umai derech. What do we mean by a city? And what do we mean by the roadway? Ilema ir, if we're saying city, ir mamash. Derech mamash. When we say city, we mean an actual city. Okay? And when we say a roadway, an actual roadway, misveka, mi mechazkuma. Okay? Do we have any doubt that we should not have some chazaka of there being tuma there? V'ha'amar ish. And didn't the reputation say, Ayla matzu, okay, v'taharu eretz Yisrael. We found a pretext, right? And we were able to determine that the land of Israel doesn't, right, remains tahor. Amar Rabbi Zera, says Rabbi Zera, when we ir hasmucha levet hakvarot, we're talking about a city that's close to him. V'derech, say a roadway, derech beit, it's the roadway to the cemetery. Okay? So the Gemara answers, lema derech barot. That's understandable if you say that there could be tamei mounds of earth along the roadway towards entering the cemetery. Why? The zimni the mitrame bein hashmashot. Okay, umakru kivro batel. Okay, that at times happens that they are bringing the body and it's close to darkness. Right, it's evening, and what do? Umakru kivro batel, and they put the body down and make a mound there, right? Elair hasmucha lebeit kfarot, kulhe lebeit kfarot asle. But a city, you say the city is near the cemetery. All of the people from that town, that city, generally go to the cemetery for the funeral itself. Okay? Don't they go? And therefore, why would you say that mounds near the city, approaching a cemetery, that people would bury there, bury anything there? Amar Rabbi Chanina, says Rabbi Chanina, mitoch shehanashim kovrot niflehi. Why? Because women may go and bury a nefesh there. Okay, they may run out of the city, okay, and bury quickly and then come back. Okay, or what else? Umoche shchin zrotein, or somebody who has a terrible illness that results in the loss of a limb, like a leper. Okay, they would bury the limbs there. Okay, ad 50 amma azla lechida. Why? In that example, up to 50 amma, okay, a woman might go if she was burying the nefel, okay, by herself. Tfei, more than that, dabra imish bahada, okay, she would bring along another woman, or somebody along with her.
A man, inish, a man, bahad,
Right,
with her,
she would bring another person
kvoris,
along
right,
with her. Usually,
right. And she would go to the basic chorus.
Right, levesa kvaros asla, and they would go to directly to the cemetery. Right, hilkach tuma be'eretz Yisrael lo
No
mechaz.
machzakin.
Right, therefore we don't say, okay, this business, okay, that we don't presume on cleanliness in Eretz Yisrael. Amar Rav Chisda, Shma Mina. What do we learn from this? Mi Rebbe Meir, Hai Sahaduta, Ad Shitin Shani, Mitka. It would seem then that Rabbi Meir must be of the opinion that testimony might be able to be remembered for 60 years. Okay?
Because you said a grave, if it was
Right.
60 years, so
He
people
said that-
remember that up to 60 years, people remember a grave being there.
Right,
So
they would
same thing with,
remember if there was a burial there within that.
so same thing, people would remember testimony up to 60 years.
Faith. More than that, low
Low
min-
mid.
that they wouldn't remember. Okay, which we all can recognize living here in Century Village, right? Velohi, he says, but that's not the case. Hatam hu delo ramya ale. There, maybe they did not impose the need to testify. Avahacha, but in our case, evan de rami ale, afilu tuban me. But when one is imposed, required to testify, it's possible that even more than 60 years, the person might remember what happened. Okay, that's the end of that. Okay, I'm going to just do the Mishnah and then we'll finish today. Matnitin said, Ze omer tav yadi v'zek tav yado shel tav. So one witness comes and says, yes, that's my signature and that's my buddy's signature. And then another witness comes, the other witness comes. V'ze omer zek tav yadi. This one says it's my signature. V'zek tav yado shel chaveri. And this is, and he says, and the other, yes, that is the signature of my colleague, of my buddy. Okay. Hare elu ne'amanim. They are both then believed. However, the Mishnah goes, Ze omer zek tav yadi. This one simply says, that's my signature. Ze omer zek tav yadi. And that one says, it's my signature. Okay, what happens with the Mishnah? Tzrichin l'tzaref imahem acher. You have to join it, but according to Rabbi, another person has to join them, okay, to testify about their signature, right? In other words, so therefore you have two people testifying about each signature. V'chachamim omrim, but the sages disagree and say, "Einam tzrichim l'tzaref imahem acher." One does not need to have another person join them. Ela ne'eman adam lomar ze ketav yad. But a person is trustworthy to say that is my signature. And we'll stop there for today. Okay.
Left us with a cliff.
All right. Actually, I'm sure that you actually know that your signature